The initial template that I'll be sharing out for this consists of two parts. One is the form that we're using, so this is a copy of it. And where I've written an email address, this is so other people can put that in. I automatically collect teacher usernames, so that's already in my spreadsheet because this is all in district, so you can collect the usernames. We have multiple buildings that people are doing for this, so I have them indicate their building. And then for each of the categories, you can see I have Google Apps challenges here. I put in the possible totals. And so this becomes a drop down that they can select. So they're submitting for a 10-point total or a 100-point total challenge. And you can see we have the different categories. And with each category, there's a link for their artifact showing what they've done or the impact of their learning. And so we have that for each category. You see our one category doesn't have anything right now. Is because we're still working on those challenges, as that has to integrate with everything else we're doing in the district. This shouldn't be just totally something new. This should be something that working all together. And as we're still working on our literacy professional learning, we're going to be waiting on those challenges. So then the teacher just hit submit. They can submit as many times as they want. And of course, all that data goes into our lovely little spreadsheet here. And you can see how it has timestamp. It'll collect the username, or in that case, the email, or it will refresh. Then you can see all of our data here. Now, the thing is with links is that they will show up as links in the spreadsheet, but one thing with that is that they will not show up in the awesome table once you get to the leaderboard. So what I do is I create a pivot table. And the pivot table is automatically pulling in each username and summing up of the different categories. So we have Google Apps, Professional Learning, the Digital Learning, and professional learning is teacher learning, digital learning is student learning, literacy, and then formative assessment. What I had to do, just because I don't want to, in the awesome table, show their name, and I'm going to find a way to do this quicker, I just pull apart their names using a split function. So you can see that lovely split function there. And then I recombine them using concatenate to get to the way I like it. The only problem with this is I have to do this automatically. I've not figured a way to do, you can't use an array formula with split or concatenate, so I gotta find a different way to do that, but right now this works. Once I do it for the first time they enter points, it'll be there for every time they enter points after that. So the pivot table I created by just going up to, when you go up to data, and you can go pivot table, it creates a brand new table. Let me delete this one real quick. And then while you are in the pivot table, you just tell it what you want to sum up. So you can see I have those settings up here. And I'll make it so people can make their own copies, or at least view these, and so they can see what it looks like. The leaderboard then is what I did is I just brought in the different headings, and then I did an array formula to pull in the names from the pivot table and the school. And then I also used an array formula to pull in their totals from that other table. Now, if you just use their username, you're not going to have to worry about this, really, a whole lot. The fact that I had to use two different array formulas. But I did this just because I wanted to look a certain way. Again, this is going to be one of the things I'm going to work on. And then this is just summing it up. But again, I'm using an array formula, so this will keep happening even as new people submit the forms. The next thing is when you look over here, you're going to see the badges. And for each category, there is a badge equation. And this, again, is an array formula, so it keeps happening. But it's set so it's pulling the badges from another sheet. So if I go to the badges sheet, you'll see that I have my overall badge, Google Apps badge, Professional Learning badge. So the nice thing is if you go back to the leaderboard, and you see I titled this Google Apps, and this pretty much is pulling from those badges under Google Apps. If you change these links, then that will work for you. What you have to do is you do have to use a concatenate formula here. But again, if you just replace these links with the links that you come up with for where your images are hosted, this will automatically change for you. So you can use this by putting in your own links to the images you're using. Let's go back to the leaderboard for a second. This row here is all about the awesome table headings. So no filter means that that column will show up, but there's no way to filter it out. Hidden no filter means that these will not show up at all. The only one that will show up will be the total score. I have a category filter over the name and over the school. I really don't need a category filter for the name, but I have this for the school. So what I'll do is every time a new school is entered here, it'll add that to the category list of the drop down, so you can look at just one school's worth if you have multiple schools doing this. So again, this array formula for the badges is it's an if-then statement. Pretty much if the values between 0, if it's 0, there's going to be no badge. If it's between pretty much 1 and 50, it's going to be this badge right here. If it's between 51 and 500, it's going to be this badge. If it's between 501 and 1100, it's going to be this badge. If it's over 1100, it's going to be this badge. So I just determined the values I wanted for those badges to be earned, and the if equation is just separating those out. So if I put in a different badge here, it'll show up when somebody's between 501 and, between 500 and 51. So you may have to look at this if-then statement to kind of understand a little bit more, but it's the same statement across and the same numbers, except for the total badge, because you're adding up all those points, I just changed those numbers for that setup. So the artifacts page is actually what it's doing is that it's pulling out all of the responses in the artifacts column under Google Apps and removing the blanks. Same thing's happening here for professional learning. It's just that none of them are entered in my example. Same thing, digital learning and formative assessment. You would do the same thing here for the literacy if you add that fifth category. The templates, this is a part of Awesome Tables. So if I go back to the leaderboard, so that these equations here all become, this templates is for the artifacts, so that this link here, while it looks clickable now, when it goes to the Awesome Table, it won't be unless you use this template page and then use the advanced features of Awesome Tables to add templates. So this is just a quick overview of how we do our setup here. It all started with the Google form, which kicked its data out to the first sheet of our spreadsheet here. And then the pivot table does the summing of the points. The leaderboard, I just pull all those values back over so that it can be shown on the Awesome Table of our site. The artifacts then are pulled from their Google Form submissions, broken up by category. The template page is used so that the artifacts page can actually show clickable links. And then the badges page, if you insert the links to your badges, they'll automatically replace the badges in my leaderboard. So if you make a copy of this, you could actually change these links here. You wouldn't have to do a whole lot with this page. You'll have to look at how you want names to show up and see if you want to keep doing it. But if you just copy down this equation, copy down this equation, and copy down this equation, and this equation, you will get the names to show up the way I have them, which is first, comma, last initial. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to contact me. But this is the initial stages of the project. Later stages, we will have a much easier to use template where you'll be able to just plug and play your stuff and be able to run with it. But since we're still messing with how to implement this, what resources I need, all that, the template side will be kind of a later thing we'll work on. But this is the way I've done my scoreboard for our gamification of teacher learning.